Okay, children, today I am going to take social for 8th class. Lesson 10, landlords and tenants under the British and Nizam. Lesson 10, landlords and tenants under the British and Nizam. British and Nizam. Yes, let us continue the lesson from developmental activities. Some British administrators believed that it is the duty of the government to invest in large-scale irrigation works. So some people, they have believed that some of the administrators, British administrators, they believe that it is the duty of the government to look after the invest in large-scale irrigation works. So this would enable farmers to cultivate lands and grow high-value cash crops. Due to the untiring efforts of Sir Arthur Cotton, an ancient across the Godavari River at Dhavaleshwaram was completed in 1849. It brought immediate prosperity to the district, which had suffered acutely from severe famine in 1833. Similarly, an ancient was built over the Krishna River at Vijayawada. An anecut was built over the Krishna River at the Vijayawada in 1854, which brought prosperity to the delta area. After 1857, the Kurnool-Kadapa canal was built to bring waters to the dry areas of Rayalaseema. So then these measures, even though significant, had a very limited impact as they covered and the result is even in the royalty areas and land revenue was fixed at a very high level. Unlike the zamindari areas, it was fixed for 20 to 30 years. After the expiry of the tenure period, the revenue was revised. So taking the changed condition into consideration, the land revenue was so high that in the beginning it had to be collected by force. Soon, however, the prices rose faster than the land revenue and the royals found it more profitable to employ tenants to cultivate their law. And receive rent from them. Soon their Rotwari area too was full of landlords who rented out their lands to helpless tenants for very high rents. So the tenants had to pay rent that was 3 to 7 times more than the land revenue paid to the royals to the government. So that is, if a royal paid ₹100 as land revenue for a piece of land to the government, he was able to get ₹300 to 700 from the tenants for the same land. As a result, they were not interested in investing in improving agricultural, but only in renting it out to at a higher and higher rates. So as they get the revenue from the government, that is per some piece of land from the government, they are going to get ₹100, whereas as a tenant they will have to pay for per piece of land like 300 to 700 they'll pay. So there was a more profit from the tenants only. Next, commercialization and money lenders. So driven by the desire to increase the income from land revenue, officials fixed a very high revenue demand. So peasants were unable to pay this revenue and fled the countryside. Thus village became deserted in many regions. Optimistic officials had imagined that the new system would transform the peasant into rich enterprising farmers. But this did not happen due to the very high-end land revenue rates. Peasants were very often borrowed money from money lenders. So peasants, they have borrowed money very often from the money lenders in order to pay their land revenue. To pay their land revenue, peasants, they used to take the money from the money lenders. However, if they could not repay their loans on time, the money lenders also went to court to get their land action to recover the lost money. If the peasants were not able to pay the money in time, the landowners, they used to go to the court and they used to the court to their land action to recover the money of their loss. Due to this new British role for collecting land revenue, many peasants fell into deep debt trap. So because of this, many peasants, they went in debt trap. Okay. There was also another reason why their debt kept increasing. So why their debts are being increasing? There was another reason, that is, with an increase in the export of agriculture produce, the agriculture prices were determined by international market. So as the agriculture produce are exporting, the price was determined by the international market. So this was another reason for the people of increasing their debt. For example, in 1816 there was a civil war in America and British factories turned to India for supply of cotton. As a result, cotton price soared high and farmers began taking loan to grow cotton in the hope of getting high prices. The Civil War in the USA ended in 1865 and the demand for Indian cotton fell. So did its price. Cotton that fetched to 12 annas per kilo in 1864 now fetched only 6 annas per kilo. So this was the second reason for their increase in the debt. Why means in 1961 there was a demand for cotton. So for people, the peasants, what they did, they took the money from the money lenders and they cultivated cotton. As they cultivated and harvested, the price of the cotton fell down. So previously it was 12 annas. So after that what happened? It became to 6 annas. So there was a loss for the peasants. In this way they all become the debt trap. The money lenders become richer and richer as more and more peasants came under this grip. So as the peasants are becoming debtors and the money lenders are becoming rich, more richer and richer as these people going and taking the money from them. The riots of Ganjam, who had printed their hopes on reaping huge profits from cotton crops, suddenly became paupers. Not only that, rich became so scarce since cotton was grown in the fields where previously paddy was cultivated. The scarcity of rice hit all the sections of the population. Thousands of people died of hunger in the famine known as the Ganjam famine. Due to the impoverishment, many people were forced to migrate to countries such as South Africa, Fiji, Mauritius, Burma, Malaysia and the Caribbean islands as indentured laborers and coolies, as there was a need of work on the sugarcane and cotton plantation. So the zamindari's explosion of the peanuts. During the colonial period, the peasants were forced to do vetti, work without wages. So during the colonial period, what happened? The peasants were forced to do the work as vetti. Vetti means without wages. They won't pay any wages on the personal land of the landlords. If they refused, the soldiers used to catch hold of the peasant walking on the road and force them to do vetti in the zamindar's field. If the peasant does not agree to do this, by forcefully they used to catch hold of the peasant when they are walking on the roads and they force them to do the work. So many peasants could not cultivate their own lands, own fields properly. They could not improve their fields. Their plight can be understood through a government report written in 1878. The report says that the peasants did not try to dig well on their lands or irrigate. If it nor did they try to burn their fields or dig drains or use fertilizers. They do nothing to improve their land because they fear they can be evicted from their land at any time. If they improve their farming, the zamindar immediately increase the share he takes from them. But the zamindars also prevent the peasants from improving their fields because they are afraid that the peasants would then start asserting their rights over the land. Some countless collection cases and payments, the zamindars also tried to extract as much money as they could from the peasants under a variety of pretexts. The peasants also had a regular supply ghee, milk, vegetables, jaggery, straw, cow dung, cakes, etc. free of cost to the zamindar's house. The peasant used to offer all these things free of cost to the zamindar's house. This situation was there in many provinces of India. Bengal, Bihar and Uttar Pradesh had many powerful zamindars. Each of them owned dozens of even hundreds of villages. The peasants kept trying to resist the excess of these zamindars. So the Doras and peasants of Hyderabad state. So in the Hyderabad state, under the British rule, there were many forms of subordinate chieftanesses like Jagirdars, Samstandars and Inamdars who ruled like independent chiefs. So they collected revenue from the lands under them and gave a small part of the Nizam as Peshkash and kept the remaining with them. So they were also responsible for the administration of their area in the Hyderabad state. There were about 1500 jagirs spread over 6535 villages and 14 samsthanams over 497 villages. About 1400 villages were directly under the Nizam as his personal jagir called Sarf-e-Khas. The rest of the kingdom was administered by the described below. So the Nizam who ruled Hyderabad state were under the British and had to follow their policies. The Nizam people, the Nizams who ruled Hyderabad, they were under British people. So they have to follow the British policies. In the first half of 19th century, they tried to collect maximum land revenue, Deshmukhs, and it's resulted its desertion of lands. by peasants and complete decline of agriculture. In view of this situation, the Nizam's government set up a new land revenue arrangement by which the government appointed district officials to collect land revenue directly. The old landlords were compensated with an annual payment called rusum, and they were also given patta rights of all full ownership over the land and the adjoining wastelands and forest. As the landlords realized that there was a large export market for several agricultural products like castor, groundnut, etc., they brought more wasteland under cultivation to grow these crops. And next is, the large landlords were called as Doras. The Doras lived in the large fortified houses called Gadi and had a large retinue of servants and soldiers. They had vast lands cultivated by tenants and also lands directly cultivated with forced laborer. They acted as village moneylenders too. They also had judicial powers over the entire village. The Doras have all these powers in the village, and they settled all the village disputes and were usually partial towards the upper caste. They used to settle the disputes or any problem in the village, but they used to show a little partiality towards upper caste people. Other village officials like patwaris and smaller landlords too had to abide by their orders. They forcibly ensured that the lower caste laborers worked for all the upper caste and especially the landlords. They enforced rules like no lower caste person could wear shirts or slippers or wear a turban, and had to always remain bent before the Doras and address them as their masters. So in the Ristwell, Mahbub Nagar and Nalgonda district, there were 550 Doras who owned more than 1,000 acres of land. Okay, there were landlords who owned about 1 lakh acres like Vishnupuri, Ramchandra Reddy and Janna Reddy, Pratap Reddy. And the famines are massive food shortage leading to acute distress were a regular failure of the British rule. Due to high taxes and rents, the peasants had little reserve to face difficulties, seasons of crop failures. So further, food grains were exported out for the country in large quantities. This created a scarcity situation in the entire country. So there was the food production, whatever the food grains were produced in our country, they used to export that to the other countries, and here the people will be starving. In addition, the government often refused to interfere when powerful traders tried to create artificial scarcity by hoarding food grains. Andhra, like the rest of the country, suffered from severe famines in the 19th and 20th centuries. The most severe famine, commonly known as the Ganjam famine, occurred during the years 1865 to 66. You read about it in the earlier sections. Repeated famines occurred in the Rayalaseema district due to lack of irrigation facilities. Because of irrigation facilities, there was a famine occurred in Rayalaseema. Not less than 11 famines occurred during the later half of the 19th century. Thousands of people died. Grain riots occurred in many Andhra districts, and troops were sent to quell the violence. The peasant movements we saw about the peasants were deeply troubled by high and revenue rates, the oppressions of landlords and money lenders. So during the colonial period, the peasants in different parts of the country protested and fought against the landlords. So during the colonial period, the peasants of different parts of the country, they all fought against the landlords, merchants and the state officials. The famous peasant movement were the Deccan Riots of 1860s, Rampa, Pichuris and Muppela agitation, which had taken organized forms. While in the 19th century the movements took the form of open revolts, the peasants joined the national movement in large numbers in the 20th century, and in 1920 to 22 the peasants of Awadh in Uttar Pradesh took out huge processions to protest against the zamindars who were extracting money from them. So many zamindars were socially boycotted and driven from the village. The peasants also refused to till the fields of the zamindars who tried to evict their tenants or claim too much rent from them. The peasants formed Kisan Sabhas to carry their agitation forward and demanded abolition of landlordism, reduction of land revenue and control over money lenders. The British government helped the zamindars to suppress the revolts. You will read about the struggle of the Telangana peasants in the later chapters. So this is what about the lesson and the peasant movements and the Doras and peasants of the Hyderabad, and many more things we have learned from this lesson. And now the time for you all to read the lesson, children. Take out your books and write the start sheet. Social, 8th class, homework, read lesson 10 and answer all the questions. In classwork. Then take parent signature. So remember children, read the lesson once, twice or thrice and then answer the questions by your own. If not possible, refer the workbook. Okay children. So till then take care children.